Yesterday was a pretty big day for fans of Destiny 2. They hosted a live stream talking about the past, the present, and going into details of the future for Destiny 2. Now, this included discussion of the currently available season, of some upcoming expansions, including a big one coming this fall, and plans for the future that include removing content from the game. Don't worry, we'll get to that. Now, I'd like to start off with the positive stuff, so let's just talk about the new content. What's the new stuff that is being added to Destiny 2? We got a brand new season, which started yesterday, Season 11, the Season of Arrivals, lasting from now until September 21st. So with this, there's a brand new dungeon called Prophecy. This is available to all Destiny 2 players. We'll be entering the realm of the Nine and facing hordes of Taken, as well as manipulating reality to solve intricate puzzles. There are new public events beneath the pyramid ship on Io that are summoning in enemies from beyond. There are new Umbral engrams, which is loot covered in darkness that will be giving rewards from prior seasons. There's a new exotic grenade launcher called Wither Horde, a new artifact, the Seed of Silver Wings, with seasonal mods and new ways to customize. And of course, with a new season, there is a brand new season pass, rewarding gear, experience, and other seasonal rewards. They also gave a roadmap for the rest of the season, some of the updates that will be coming out in the next few months. As with everything, there will be some free content available to everyone, and then some content that is exclusive to anyone who purchases the season pass. So a brand new season, some new content to the game, pretty cool, but not as big as what's coming up this fall, which is the Year 4 expansion. So this will be launching on September 22nd. The expansion goes by the name of Beyond Light. In it, Guardians will explore a changed universe with a new destination, new adventures, and new powers to explore. So of course, we're getting a brand new location. This is Jupiter's frozen moon of Europa, an unrelenting glacial frontier where we will have to infiltrate the Golden Age Braytech facility and uncover the secrets that lie deep under the ice. So there's a brand new story. This dark empire has risen beneath the ancient pyramid ships above Europa, and we're gonna have to join our fellow Guardians to bring down the empire, even if it means wielding the darkness itself. And that plays right into a brand new element coming to the game known as Stasis that will be adding new subclasses. So Guardians are gonna get to wield this new elemental power alongside the Arc, Solar, and Void subclasses. And this will allow us to summon new epic superpowers and control the battlefield with darkness. All of the classes, Titans, Warlocks, and Hunters, will get new Stasis abilities, a new Stasis subclass. And in a live stream, it was also revealed that the subclass is gonna be more customizable than the currently existing 3 subclasses, as the perks aren't batched together. So it's gonna be allowing for a bit more mixing and matching. And with this expansion, there's also going to be a new 6-person raid called the Deep Stone Crypt, located beneath the frozen tundra of Europa. And there will be 2 additional raids added over the course of that season. And of course, with all of this, there are new exotics, weapons, and armor to collect. Now, beyond the expansion that's coming this fall, they also hinted at the next 2 expansions called the Witch Queen, coming in 2021, and Lightfall in 2022. That means, yes, there's going to be 3 more years of expansions coming up, and that also means they aren't planning on Destiny 3 anytime soon. They specifically actually mentioned that there are no plans to make Destiny 3, and they just are focused on continuing to add upon and evolve Destiny 2. It was also revealed that Destiny 2 will be coming to the next-gen consoles, the PS5 and Xbox Series X, and that free upgrades will be available from current gen to next gen. So, no plans to release a Destiny 3. They're going to keep evolving Destiny 2. We get a brand new season right now, big expansion that's coming this fall on September 22nd. Cool stuff, right? But then we get to the content vault. So this is something that I think is going to be very controversial, to say the least. So let's talk about the Destiny 2 content vault. I'm going to go first through the TLDR that they listed up on the blog post. Destiny 2 is too large to efficiently update and maintain. The size and complexity of the game are also contributing to more bugs and less innovation. So instead of building Destiny 3 and leaving Destiny 2 behind, like they did in the transition from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, they are now going to every year be cycling older content, some of the be less actively played content. It will be leaving the live game and moving into what is called the Destiny Content Vault. So what they say is that this is going to allow them to support Destiny 2 for years to come, including the 3 new annual expansions that they just announced, starting with the Beyond Light expansion in the fall. And the Destiny Content Vault will include all content from Destiny 1, which this is something that I think is pretty cool, because that means some of Destiny 1 content will be rolling into Destiny 2. That is a dream that I've always had for the game. I was hoping one day that all of Destiny 1 would be coming into Destiny 2. Instead, what we're getting is they're removing large chunks of Destiny 2 and then cycling in some content that they removed there, as well as some content from Destiny 1. So they say that they're going to be bringing back or unvaulting activity and destination content from the vault every year, and the unvaulting will begin in Destiny 2 Year 4 with the Cosmodrome coming back, that's the Earth location from Destiny 1, as well as the 3 strikes and the return of the Vault of Glass raid. This part of it I am actually happy about, but it's just everything else that isn't that great. So basically what's going to happen is with this vaulting process starting in the fall with this upcoming expansion, they will be removing the following Destiny 2 content. All of these destinations, Mars, Io, Titan, Mercury, and the Leviathan, and all of their supported activities. So any of the exotics that were originally linked to this content will also be entering the vault, but they are going to have ways to earn that stuff. So if there was gear that you liked from those things, you'll still be able to get that gear, but you won't be able to go to those locations or do any of those locations activities. And now the new version of the game, the Director, which is basically the interactable menu where you choose where you go in Destiny 2, is going to include the new location of Europa, the Cosmodrome, which will be unvaulted from Destiny 1, and then the currently existing locations of the Moon, Tangled Shore, Dreaming City, European Dead Zone, and Nessus. Their whole idea here is they're saying that this approach allows them to respond to player feedback more rapidly, enable more innovation, and will keep Destiny 2 and your characters thriving for years. I mean, I don't need to hear that. So, just to be perfectly clear, I got this list of everything that's leaving the game when this vaulting happens. You know, of course, we're getting the Cosmodrome added, and we're getting that new location of Europa, and all of the activities and strikes and raids included with that. We're trading that out for the 4 full locations of Mars, Io, Titan, and Mercury. And with that, 5 raids will be leaving the game: the Leviathan, Eater of Worlds, Spire of the Stars, Crown of Sorrow, Scourge of the Past, the Menagerie, the Tribute Hall, all of the Red War, Warmind, and Curse of Osiris campaigns that were tied to each of those planets. Escalation Protocol will be leaving. We will be losing 7 strikes, the 2 on Mars, 2 on Mercury, 1 on Titan, and 2 on Io, and the 9 lost sectors that were in those locations as well. A pretty sizable amount of content leaving the game, some new content coming in, but I think what's, I guess, it's not most frustrating, but certainly one frustrating aspect of this is that a good chunk of this stuff that's getting removed at one point was paid DLC that people purchased. Now, eventually, they kind of changed the structure of the game. If you remember, Destiny 2 has a free-to-play version called New Light, and when that happened, everything pre-Forsaken became available for free. So that transition from, hey, I paid for this and now it's available to some players for free, that already happened. I think there's something that kind of stings to this idea of them taking content out of the game that at one point probably a decent portion of their player base paid for. Now, the argument for why this vaulting is happening is there's basically 2 prime factors. One factor is having all this content made the process of updating and patching and getting changes to the game, and made everything more difficult and made it take longer. The file size was bigger, everything like that. And the second justification is that this is content that wasn't frequently visited. Areas of the game that aren't seeing a lot of foot traffic. Not a lot of the active player base is spending time in these destinations and these things that they are removing, which I understand. If there's content like, for example, raids that aren't really relevant and you're not getting the new best gear from or whatever, or planets that there isn't much of a reason to go to, I can see why they'd be like, this is making everything harder, nobody's there, so why don't we just take it out to make everything easier? And since hardly anybody's there, no one will miss it. But I would also say, if there's parts of your game that not a lot of people are going to, I don't think the conclusion should be just remove that stuff. What you could do is give incentive for players to go there. I mean, you see it in a lot of, let's just say it, MMOs. They call this game an action MMO at some point in their blog post, so I guess they're fine with that analogy. In many of the active MMOs out there, they'll give players incentive through like daily quest or whatever, or updating those old raids to make relevant gear drop from them, relevant power levels. There's things that you could do to get people to visit this old content that doesn't involve removing it from the game, especially knowing that some of this content people paid for. In fact, I'm pretty sure I paid for all of this content because I was playing the game consistently throughout the years, coming back a few times every year, playing for a few weeks at a time, buying the latest update. So I want to, again, I really want to get into the nitty gritty here because they really dive into the reason they are wanting to do this. In the blog post, they say, over the past couple of months, we've mentioned the problems that come with maintaining a game the size of Destiny 2, and we've said that it cannot grow infinitely. After 3 years of non-stop growth, the scope and complexity of Destiny 2 has ballooned to unprecedented scale. He then talks about, here's all the content we have: 40 story missions, 54 adventures, 42 lost sectors, 17 strikes, yada yada yada. They then talk about how the game has grown to a big size, requiring players to download up to 115 gigabytes to play, as well as huge patches tied to frequent updates. Those sizes not only stress hard drive capacity. Spare me, please. I'm not convinced that the reason they're removing content from this game is because they're worried about my hard drive capacity. The primary motivating factor is that the time to generate stable updates, they say, for the game after all of the content is finalized, tested, and ready to go, ballooned to literal days instead of hours. So basically, having all of this content, and specifically a lot of content that people aren't spending a lot of time in, is making the process of sending out updates more difficult. They even go into some details saying, worse still, 115 gigabytes includes a lot of content that isn't relevant anymore. For example, Warmind's campaign represents only 0.3% of all time played in the Season of the Worthy, and yet the Warmind expansion accounts for 5% of our total install size. The amount of difficulty that these areas are causing isn't worth the trade-off for how few players are spending time in there. They also talk about how maintaining this much content in perpetuity slows down our ability to update the game with fresh experiences, reduces our ability to innovate, and delays our reaction to community feedback. And the idea here is that when they're spending time bug fixing and going through and testing this stuff every time there's a new update, making sure everything's stable, and all of this content, once again, that people aren't spending time on, that is taking away development time, attention, and resources from new things and them adding new experiences. Finally, he wraps up in this section saying that our ambition is for Destiny 2 to be the best action MMO in the world, and that means being far more agile and nimble than we are today. But the simple fact is that our game size and complexity prevents us from improving Destiny as fast as we and you would like. Kicking the ball back to us as if that's something that players really want. Now, obviously, there will be plenty of defenders, and I'm not doubting their reasoning behind this. I totally understand. There's a bunch of content in this game that not a lot of people are spending time on, and it's making adding new content and pushing out updates more difficult by virtue of things taking longer because of everything involved in testing, patching, updating, and then pushing these updates live. I get that argument, but it's still very hard for me to get behind this idea of them removing content. I've always felt like Destiny 2 was a fun game to play. The moment-to-moment action is awesome. The gunplay feels great. The abilities moving around the world. There's cool skills, and there's cool weapons, and there's cool enemies. I never felt like the world was immersive enough, and namely, I never felt like there was enough content. I mean, that's always been one of the biggest complaints with Destiny 1 and then Destiny 2. When those games first came out, people said, I like the game, but there's not enough content. There's not enough to come back and see. There's not enough of a reason to continue to play the game. And then over the years, as they continue to add more updates, it gets better and better. And by the end of Destiny's lifespan, people really like the game. There's a lot of content, there's a lot to do, and then they chopped the head off the beast and released Destiny 2. And then the same process happened. And my dream with that Destiny as a franchise was always this expanded universe that kept getting bigger, not one that chopped off a huge portion of content. At one point, I envisioned all of Destiny 1 migrating into Destiny 2 and then just them expanding upon that and just making this MMO-like game. I mean, they call it, in this blog post, they say, our ambition is for Destiny 2 to be the best action MMO. So I'm just going to compare it to other MMOs, and you just don't see this. MMOs grow over time. Now, that doesn't mean that all the content stays relevant or gets a lot of foot traffic. It still exists for new players to experience, for people who are nostalgic for stuff that they played before to go back to. There's clearly something with the Destiny development, and I actually remember hearing about this with Destiny 1, that it was very hard for the way the game was developed and the way they had to make changes. Their content pipeline made it difficult to make updates as regularly as they want. And it seems like, even, I don't know, it's probably not the exact same issue. I'm assuming they learned some lessons when they moved into Destiny 2, but it seems like that is clearly still an issue. They have a problem, and it is difficult with the way this game is made for them to just keep adding content. Seemingly, it's impossible or too much of a challenge for them to want to continually maintain, and they have a hard time justifying it because a lot of that content doesn't get a lot of visiting. I just wish that their answer wasn't to remove content. Like, I feel like the real answer would be to incentivize players to go through those old raids and go to those planets that aren't getting visited a lot. You can give players rewards, namely in a game like Destiny, give players gear or resources or currency or whatever, give them a reason to go back to that old stuff. You could easily enough, by rewarding powerful engrams for going through the old raid content, you could get people into that content. You could. It's a possibility, you know what I mean? See, the thing is, there's going to be people with much more nuanced opinions on this topic, because there's a lot of people out there who have only played Destiny 2 for the past few years. I am not that person. I am someone who plays it a few times every year for a couple weeks at a time, getting to the point where I'm hitting that soft cap, doing those powerful upgrades, getting a little bit, but that treadmill only keeps me entertained for so long because I know where it goes, right? Because I've played enough MMOs, I've played enough loot grinding games to realize when I hit that point, minor upgrades here and there, I can put it down and I can come back for the next update. And I guess I'm just sad I'm sad that they're removing content. I know that there are reasons. I know that they clearly have thought this through. There's no question. They think this is the best course for the game, and it probably is. It probably is for Destiny 2 and the way they develop the game and the way they update it and how content is made. This is probably the best answer. Otherwise, I don't think they would do it. That doesn't make me any less disappointed that they're going to be taking a good chunk of content out of the game. It doesn't. I don't know what else to say. All right, guys, that's it for me today. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I don't know what they're doing, but I am excited for the new stuff. I'm going to jump in and check out Season 11, the Season of Arrivals. I've already done a couple of quests and whatnot. I checked out the new public event. Pretty cool. And I'm sure I'll be buying the Year 4 expansion. Ultimately, I do like the game. I'm just not pleased with this decision to vault stuff. It's shit. It's pretty shit.